Hello, my name's Liz White, and in this Mentoring Skills Session 3, we are going to be considering how to develop our mentoring and coaching skills using instructional coaching. We will be considering what instructional coaching is and what educative mentoring is, and then we're going to think about how we can use instructional coaching as educative mentors. And finally, there will be some resources to help you with instructional coaching. Instructional coaching comes from the USA. Jim Knight is a leading researcher in the USA, and he was instrumental in bringing instructional coaching to the UK. It is an evidence-based educational coaching model focused on improving the practice of teaching. It starts from analysing the current reality, setting a specific attainable pedagogical target that can be accomplished in a short time frame, identifying and explaining teaching strategies to reach these goals, and providing support until the goals are reached. What distinguishes this model is that instructional coaches teach others how to learn specific teaching practices by revisiting the same specific skills several times with focused, bite-sized bits of feedback specifying not just what, but how the novice needs to improve during each cycle. There are collections of evidence-based techniques in books and online available to help you to deconstruct and articulate your practice. However, care needs to be taken to ensure that this does not become mechanistic. We are going to look at some resources available to help you towards the end of this video. Now we're just going to remind ourselves about the educative mentoring approach. This approach is research-based and emphasises critical friendship and collaboration. It develops a supportive, non-judgmental relationship between the mentor and mentee. It helps the mentee to become reflective and to become an independent professional. And it develops mentors who are modelling continually learning as professionals. Through focusing on pupil learning and analysing experience in the classroom together, there's an opportunity to think aloud and connect the learn that and the learn how to of the ITT core content framework. Learning is situated in the actual doing of activities, carrying out the teaching in the class, and the work is joint between the mentor and the mentee, embedded in their practice. Educative mentoring aligns closely with our partnership vision to develop teachers with professional voice who articulate how research has informed their practice. Educative mentoring is a broad approach that will draw on multiple pedagogies of teacher education to effectively develop teachers as skilled professionals. These high leverage practices include co-planning, demonstration teaching, observing and giving feedback, analysing pupils' work, and instructional coaching, which we're looking at today. But also co-teaching, which we've looked at previously, inside coaching and stepping in. Educative mentoring focuses more widely than just developing different teaching strategies. It is a holistic and emotionally intelligent approach to professional development. It helps the development of critically reflective independent professionals because they're viewing their classroom as a site of inquiry rather than just following directive instructions to develop a specific set of teaching strategies. Educative mentoring aims to identify challenges and develop alternative approaches through creating a culture of interrogating our practice. This way, teachers will become resilient and able to respond innovatively to a changing educational landscape. This is another aspect of our partnership vision. This approach can be transformative because it invites cognitive conflict and recognises that strength comes from diversity and multiple perspectives. This is a way to rebalance the context of standardized teacher development and supports the development of professional identity. So of all these different practices that you might use as an educative mentor, just remember that you don't need to limit yourself to just one of these practices. Now we're going to look at some of the commonalities between educative mentoring and instructional coaching, so we can see how well they work together. Both are underpinned by explicit modelling, deliberate practice, and planning, observation and feedback cycles. They both will provide student teachers with multiple opportunities to rehearse and refine particular approaches defined in the Learn How To column of the core content framework. They are both characterised by individualised one-to-one sessions, weekly interactions sustained over an extended period, contextualised support focused on the deliberate practice of specific skills. Both involve weekly meetings where the mentor and mentee are literally sitting alongside each other with a focus on something that they are sharing working at, like a lesson plan, or pupil work, or feedback from a lesson observation, or some of the diagrams in the books that we're going to share in the next part of this session. So this is good coaching practice, not to be directly firing questions and ideas at your student teacher, but looking at things together objectively. Now we're going to think about some of the issues that might have even been coming to your mind since we've been talking. So first of all, around definitions of coaching and mentoring, which are sometimes still ambiguous. There is broad, but not complete, agreement that coaches do not readily give advice and that coaching should help learners to come up with their own answers and generate their own questions. At the same time, it is accepted that mentors will have had the same role as the mentees at some point in their careers, and the focus is on passing on knowledge from an experienced member of staff to an inexperienced one. So it's very realistic to consider mentors employing coaching techniques in their toolkit of mentoring skills to support their student teacher at different times during their training. Secondly, the ITT Core Content Framework defines expert colleagues as professional colleagues, including experienced and effective teachers, subject specialists, mentors, lecturers, and tutors. In the educative mentoring approach, these experienced professionals are valued because they are continually learning, recognizing that there is a rich, complex knowledge base which continues to grow throughout their career. There is an inherent hierarchy built into mentoring, with the risk that this spills out into instructional coaching. To balance the emphasis on novice and expert, the educative approach cautions against seeing mentors as experts whose advice must be uncritically accepted and who set themselves up in a judgmental and hierarchical position of power. Instead, expertise is continually developing as we are learning. This aligns with our partnership vision to develop teachers who have the agency and confidence to make professional judgments and enable the development and learning of all. Jim Knight, in his article, emphasises when leaders are positioned as experts and teachers are positioned as novices to be trained by those experts, the inherent inequality of the training relationship interferes with the likelihood that the practices will be implemented. It also limits the learning that you as mentors can and should gain from your engagement in the mentoring process. A further issue is that the word instruction is often misunderstood in the UK. Here we're talking about instruction meaning teaching and learning as it's used in the USA, rather than instruction as being commands that must be obeyed. In the educative mentoring, our focus is on the pupil's learning rather than what the teacher's doing. And sometimes with instructional coaching there can be so much concentration on what the teacher is doing that link needs to be made. So it's a helpful way of emphasising that. And maybe you have other things that you can see are issues that might need to be discussed and resolved. Let's keep this as a good place for discussions together. Your guidance may vary at different stages of your student-teacher's development. You may be directive, where you're acting as an expert diagnosing and providing guidance for implementation. You may be facilitative, where the assumption is that the teacher already knows what to do. Or you may be dialogical, where there's a collaborative partnership between the coach and the mentor, and the student teacher. Using instructional coaching as an educative mentor, we can respect the professionalism of student teachers, but also ensure that they can learn the best practices. Dialogue and collaborative thinking drives the process, but you can be aware and understand the two other forms of coaching, directive and facilitative, and can use either of them as situations may dictate. For example, in co-planning, there is a gradual release of responsibility from the mentor to the mentee. As a mentee is developing, mentors need to move from maybe being a bit more directive to a more transactional approach, enabling the mentor to become more independent at thinking like a teacher, making decisions about their own teaching and learning, and how to analyse the impact on pupils' learning. This focus aligns with our partnership vision of developing teachers who strive to ensure a child's learning and life chances are not limited by social or economic factors. These two books are available electronically through the university library system, so that when you're working with your student teacher, they can log on and you could be working together through some of the resources that are in these books. We are going to look together at one of these books to whet your appetite to what is available. So first of all, how can we use the book? We are going to think about the process. 5 steps: attempt, develop, adapt, practice, test. The 5-step walkthroughs in the book are not instructions you must follow, a mandatory checklist. They are a reference point to create shared understanding, a kind of definition of what we mean when we refer to a concept or a strategy. They are intended to provide a springboard from which teachers can develop their own practice in their context with their students teaching their subjects. This is where the adapt strategy comes in, which has value for any teaching idea. If you click on the link, you can read more about this practice yourself. Secondly, cold calling. This is one of the questioning strategies suggested in the book, and it has been pictured in 5 steps for carrying this technique out, which you can discuss with your student teacher and decide how and where they might use this strategy. The idea is that then your student teacher can attempt the strategy, and in discussions you can help them develop the strategy and adapt it for your context, and then they can practice using the strategy and then maybe use it in a lesson that is being observed. So you are testing to see how well they have employed the strategy. I've chosen a common and simple technique so you can see how the book works. And these links take you to the blog of Tom Sherrington, but we suggest that you might like to use the book that is in the library. You can click on this link and look in more detail about cold calling. An example of using this with a student teacher is included on the web page. Thirdly, cold calling is one of the techniques that fall under one of Rosenshine's principles of instruction, checking for understanding. If you click on this link, you will see how you can use the 5-step illustrations to help the student teacher link between the theory provided by Rosenshine to their practice with the class. Finally, as you've worked through this and maybe some of the other resources about educative mentoring, if you would like to get certification for being an educative mentor this year with your work with the University of Hertfordshire School of Education, then if you have a look in the handbook, there's more details, but it would involve a self-review, how you have engaged with the mentor development and enrichment opportunities provided by the School of Education during this year, and thinking about how you describe educative mentoring and how this has influenced your practice. You would need school endorsement so that your professional mentor would endorse your application, and you would need to contact your visiting tutor to ask for a professional learning conversation to reflect on key aspects of educative mentoring at their visit. The cost for this is £45. If you've got any further questions, do contact me. My email is available on this slide. Thank you very much. I hope you found this a helpful introduction to instructional coaching as an educative mentor.